As I begin my comments, I want to clarify first, this sermon is probably not going to be what you expect. We've been through a week, but I am still going to talk about quantum entanglement. As I begin, though, I do also want to check. I would like you all to have a stone. You were offered one as you came in. If you did not receive one and would like to participate in that part, there are some in the back, or the ushers. In fact, Kate back there has a bowl. Put your hand up, she'll come find you. Yeah, there's a few up here at the front. All right. So I'll begin. Just hold on to the stone for now. I'll begin with quantum entanglement. Because that's probably the hardest part to explain. When I was working on this sermon, I got this idea. I'm like, yeah, I could talk about that. I called up Gay Knuff. Of course he did. And I said, Gay, you gave a sermon about this, or referenced this in your sermon this summer. And Gay said, yeah, here's some courses that I took. Here's some links to some articles and some videos. And thus began a crash course in physics and quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement. It's some fascinating stuff. So one of the things I want to start with, though, I don't know if this was what it was like for you, but in the 80s when I was in high school, the physics class and the concepts of science basically said the atom, which is that really, really, really small part of molecules and cells and organisms and all of that, right? The atom is, you've got the neutron and the proton, they're at the middle, and around them are the electrons, sort of like the solar system, where you have a planet circling around the central item, which in the solar system is the sun. Or in an atom is the nucleus, the neutron and the proton, right? So the electrons are supposed to be like planets. That's the message I got. They're like, you can look, there it is, traveling around. Wrong. As I got a little older, and actually I think they started to talk about an electron field instead of an electron as an item rotating around the center. The electron is in a field. And where it is in the field, like there's still fields like orbits going larger and larger around, right? But the fields, you don't know exactly where that electron's going to be in there. So this is where, you remember Schrodinger's cat, right? Everybody remembers Schrodinger's cat, right? There's something injected into this box where there's a cat, and all of the cat lovers are like, you did what? And we don't know if the cat was killed by the gas that was injected or not until you open the box. And according to Schrodinger, at that moment, both are true. At any given moment, that electron is anywhere and everywhere in that field. And you don't know which until you open the box and the cat says meow. That's early stuff in how this all works. So quantum entanglement takes a step from that and begins this conversation. So I'm going to tell you the quick, short version of what it is, and then I'm going to try and explain what it is that I just said. If you create a pair of particles, and one of them has a spin that is up and down, and the other one has a spin that's side to side, and no matter how far apart they are, if this one switches to side, this one will switch to up and down. What? Sort of. Gaze over here like, I got my red pen. Sort of. So the point that I want to bring to you is that there's a ton of research going on. 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics was around quantum entanglement, right? So there's a lot of research going on right now about what is happening in these paired particles that are not next to each other anymore. So there's this deep, deep concept of causality, of like you flip this switch, this thing happens, right? That's basic, that's how the world works, right? So if these particles are connected and separated, so this is the big piece, the separated, because what happens is Einstein gets really upset. Because Einstein is looking at this, what did he call it? Spooky action at a distance. He's saying that when you put these two particles so far apart that the switch that happens between them is near instantaneous as our measurements can record, way faster than the speed of light. That's where Einstein takes issue. What the scientists are now, I think part of the 2022 Nobel Prize was for them to be able to say, yes, that's happening, but it doesn't contradict Einstein and the relativity and the constant of the speed of light being as fast as anything can go, because they're not communicating. Here's the interesting thing I want you to hear. These two particles are entangled, and what that means is that they're not next to each other. They're like, one of them could be on Pluto. They're not next to each other. And when one of them switches, the other also switches. But they're not communicating. They just are together. And here ends the extent to which I could figure out this past week. But here's what I take from that, though. They're connected. There's stuff going on in this there's more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in your Einsteinian physics. That there's something going on in the universe that's entangled. I love the word entangled. That it's not what you think is connecting them. There's not this one saying, I flipped. So now this one has to say, oh, that's not what's happening. They're already connected and they flip. So when I was preparing this sermon, I had a particle physicist in one ear, and I had a witch in the other. So Tiffany Hagberg is my worship associate, and Tiffany is a practitioner. In Unitarian Universalism, we have a breadth of theological perspectives, a breadth of practices and beliefs. The way we've done this is that we've hooked our centering element together around values. So we have atheists in the room, we have Christians, we have pagans, we have agnostics, we have healers, we have all kinds of people who are showing up here and finding what they need, not because they are hearing Muhammad's, peace be upon him, name, but because they're hearing the values. And every now and then, there's a nod toward whichever spiritual tradition or religious practitioner that you're personally following, but the person next to you is not. But you can be in the same room together, and we'll sing Amazing Grace. And it's going to be okay. So, the witch on my other shoulder is talking to me about the law of attraction. So the law of attraction takes a step similar to what science is doing. The law of attraction in witchcraft is saying that like follows like. Like is attracted to like. That when we are out in the world doing a practice, invoking magic, casting a spell, what you're doing is you are connecting with that aspect of earth, of spirit, that is already there. You're not creating a new thing so much as calling out what's already there to amplify it. And so your attitude and your mindset become incredibly important in the practice. What you're looking for determines what you're finding in some ways in particle physics. You have to actually look for that particle. How you go about it impacts what you're going to find. Now, it's not, science and beliefs are two different realms. They can complement, they're not the same thing, though, right? So, I want you to take your stone, and I want to invite you into a small ritual. You don't have to be a witch to do this. And I'll circle back to some particle physics and some witchcraft in just a second. But I want you to take your stone, and I want you to put into that stone your thoughts and your feelings and your fears and anxieties. This has been a heavy week. Have any of you been distracted by the news, been caught up by what's going on, a particular executive order or appointment that got passed, and some action that the Senate did at the behest of the president? Or maybe your politics don't enter into it. Maybe you got a diagnosis. Maybe you got a friend who got evicted. What are you carrying? I invite you to hold that stone. And however you think of this theologically, imbue that stone with this fear that you've been carrying, this frustration, this anger, this resentment, this hurt that has been hanging on you all week long. Put it into that stone. I am going to take a moment and invite any of you here to speak into this room. I will try to capture what words that you say, that I can repeat them into the microphone so the people online will know what's going on. But I invite you just for a moment into a naming. What have you put into your stone? Fear? Fascism? Yeah. Feeling overwhelmed? Into the stone. Anger? Anxiety? Betrayal? Say it again louder. Anticipation of harm. These and so many others, whispered on your own heart, spoken by some other voice in the room at this moment, are yours. What I'm going to do now is invite the ushers to come forward and collect these stones from you. Our world does not need the fear, the betrayal. You may bring these to the front, and we will put them here. Come, ushers, come. As the stones are getting collected, there'll be a part 2 with the stones, just like now there's a part 2 with the witchcraft and with the particle physics. So the part 2 of the witchcraft is this. What you did with the stone just now is just an activity. It's something you did that you put into that stone. And now you're going to give the stone up. You still did something. There's still something going on in the back of your head. This thought that you just had, this new activity that you just did, this letting go, this naming and releasing of something heavy for you. Now, I don't know if that impacted you or not. I don't know if now you feel a little bit lighter as you drop that stone out of your palm. It is not yours anymore. You can let it go. What people are wanting to accomplish with the law of attraction is, where do you put your focus? The invitation for witches. Do you have your stone, love? Let's put our stone, and mine too. Where did it go? Thank you. What witches are doing in that moment is they're putting their attention on what they do want. For atheists, it would be like the power of positive thinking. For Christians, it is a prayer calling for something from God. For the Buddhist, it's the letting go of attachment so that you can put your attention on other things. And I think for Buddhists, it's on nothing. But what it is you're putting your attention instead of the hurt and the suffering onto where you want to go instead. That's how you cast your spell. That's what the law of attraction is doing. It's not saying, I want, $1 million, or I want, a good housing, and suddenly it's there. It's calling what's already there to become clearer. That's what a lot of prayer does, too. That's what a lot of just good therapy does as well. This is about drawing your energy and focusing it in a particular direction. That's what the witchcraft offers in a moment like this. Now, the science, part of what I looked up with the particle physics, I know I said that's as far as I got. There's another piece that I wanted to tell you about, which is this. They, in one example I saw, you send it said you create two particles. And I'm like, wait, what? How do you create two particles? Well, in the example that I read, you point a laser at a prism, and it splits a particle into two particles that are paired, as an incredibly simplified example. So I looked up, does this just naturally happen, or is this only something that happens in the lab? Well, yeah, it happens a lot in, magnets are an incredible example of this, where things get entangled. Several metals. It happens a lot in your body. There's a lot of entanglement that has happened in your body. That's one of the incredible things about the human brain, that AI is never going to be able to figure out. Because all of the synapses, hundreds of thousands, millions of synapses. Am I close? Trillions. Thank you, okay? See? You would be so blessed to be a part of this congregation. Look, there's a particle physicist right there. That communicate with each other and make connections, or are already connected and entangled, so that your brain does stuff that a lot of science just still hasn't figured out what's going on with that. It occurs naturally. And to expand this away from just quantum or from witchcraft, because you may be digging in on either one of those pieces, or they're both I don't get it. I don't get either one of them. Let me expand this into one other area, which is actually where I identify most. I love witchcraft. I'm not a witch. I love science. I'm a layman. I don't get most of it. Where I am is how entangled I am with the suffering that is happening for the least of these around me. None of those executive orders have hit me personally yet. But they have hit family members. They have hit some of you. Some of the suffering that has already happened or is anticipated, because we know how history works. We know how power rolls. We have already felt some of it. So, where are you going to put your energy? I'm going to invite the ushers back up. And I would like you to know that you are not alone. They're going to come forward again and invite you to take a different stone. Because I want you to know, I need two, one for me and one for Tiffany before you get too far here. Good idea. I want you to know that there is someone out in this congregation, in this community right now, who is holding that fear, that betrayal, that anticipation of suffering and cruelty, that wound, there is someone in this congregation who is holding that for you, who feels that with you, who is now entangled with you in this community, and you don't know which one. You may have my stone. I may have third row from the back. I may have your stone. I don't know. And I invite you to find where you are entangled in all of this, and to recognize where you can put your attention instead. Join the ACLU. Go visit the zoning board meetings here and locally. Go call up a friend and check in with them. Go participate in, go love the earth. Go support some legislation. Show up to a rally. Make more music. Hold people. Hold people accountable. You can do this. I'm afraid, said the leaf. You're not alone, said the tree. In a world without end, may it be so.